What's up, everybody? Wes Goldberg here, RealGM Radio. It is a Lakers deep dive today. I'm going to be joined by Anthony Irwin in a minute to talk about LeBron, Summer League, and come up with some LeBron James trade ideas. All right, it's RealGM Radio. Before we jump in, a reminder to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on your podcast app to get the show every week. Anthony Irwin is here. You know him from the Lakers Lounge and as the Lakers insider for Clutch Points. We're talking all things Lakers today. But before we get into any of that, Anthony, you and I were both in Las Vegas for Summer League last weekend. Didn't get a chance to see each other at all. There's just a lot of people there. You tend to miss people. So we haven't talked, but do you have a highlight from your weekend? Did you talk to anybody? Did you meet anybody? Did you do anything special?
Highlight from my weekend. I mean, I'm an old school Vegas guy. I am now just in generally an old grumpy old man. So I always enjoy going to old school Vegas, old town Vegas, and finding like the cheaper crap, blackjack tables for the most part. So I always get a kick out of, running into whoever you run into there and seeing people in a different, because when you run into people at games, right, it's very, I am there for this thing. I am looking for this interview. I am looking for this quote. I am here to talk about whatever situation. But when you see people away from the games or that kind of a situation, you see a completely different side of people. And honestly, I think that's the my favorite side of everybody, the non-basketball driven or SEO driven or career driven person. That's I know it's kind of a broad highlight, but that's always what I look forward to, and it's always the kind of thing that I'm excited to get a year's worth of rest to recover from.
It's always my favorite conversations that I leave Vegas thinking about are not the basketball conversations. Talking to basketball people about not basketball things, and you do tend to have those conversations saddled up to a bar somewhere in Las Vegas, either on the strip, off the strip, old Vegas strip, whatever it might be. I agree with you. It's fun to be around that many basketball people and then talk about everything other than basketball, talk about movies or whatever it might be. So,
Yep.
Well, talk of Summer League while we were actually at UNLV at the Thomas and Mack Center seemed to be about what was going to happen with LeBron James for the most part. I think it was maybe the conversation topic I had the most, if I could identify one. But he showed up in Vegas on Saturday. He was interacting with some Lakers people, which is a good sign, I guess, if you're hoping that he stays in LA. And then The Athletic this morning reported that, quote, both the Lakers and people close to LeBron expect that he will be with the organization for training camp once the season begins this fall, end quote. And then another quote, that the Lakers have received no indication from LeBron or his representatives that he would request a trade or ask to be bought out of the final year of his contract, end quote. So, Anthony, I know you've done reporting on this too. Where do you think things stand between LeBron and the organization?
I think they're staying together for the kids. Kind of a deal. I also don't know how many other options they have. For the Lakers, where are you going to find somebody coming off of the season that LeBron is coming off of? You're not going to replace that productivity. And then for LeBron, one of the things that I have found the most interesting through all of this latest Le subtweet, type of chapter is how many people have talked to me about like how few teams were prepared for or were doing anything to prepare for LeBron potentially being available. I don't think he was ever available per se, but had he gone to the Lakers and said, hey, I would like you to trade me here. Here's a package that makes the most sense for us. I think that, that story would have progressed a little bit, but there weren't very many packages that made sense for all involved parties. LeBron wants to compete for a championship. The Lakers don't want to tie up their financial flexibility moving forward, and they would like to get some draft capital for him. All of this comes together to result in LeBron probably is going to be with the Lakers at the beginning of training camp. And I take it a step further. The people that I've spoken to actually think he would probably re-sign with the Lakers after this season as well. In that, yes, there's going to be more cap space available, but there are very few teams that might have cap space that LeBron would have a better chance of winning a championship with next season than he will with the Lakers. So all of this seems to be, once again, much ado about nothing.
So when that statement first comes out from Rich Paul, the I think the conversation and the thought was, okay, initially this is Rich Paul and LeBron applying pressure to the front office the way that they have several other times in LeBron's career, right? Everywhere he's been. And then it kind of started to trickle out like, well, is this actually a trade request? Because LeBron James, as you know, it takes great pride in having never requested a trade. He is the superstar that does not demand the trade. That is part of the story somewhere.
Yeah.
But so I don't think that he was ever going to just come out right and do a trade request. So I keep looking at the statement. I'm like, I think this is as close to a trade request as LeBron is ever going to get to.
Yep.
And then with this reporting and everything that we've been hearing lately, I have backed off of that. I do think that he has stopped short of the trade request. I think that, and that's what all of the latest reporting and talk around LeBron James and the Lakers sort of indicates, is he's probably applying pressure. He might be open to a trade, but he's not going to be forcing anything anytime soon. Now, does that mean he's going to start the end of the regular season with the Lakers? Is that 100% guaranteed? No, I don't. I think that all the latest reporting also stopped short of that as well. But it's clear that right now LeBron isn't trying to force his way out of the Lakers. And I think that much has been made clear. The other point that you made that I want to highlight and talk about a little bit more is that the teams around the league weren't prepared for this from LeBron, which is why I kind of think it was a weird rollout after the statement anyway. Like, if people were prepared, if this was Giannis, for instance, releasing a similar kind of statement, it would be all hands on deck, load up the trade machine, NBA Today trade machine with Bobby Marks nonstop for an hour. It would be that wall to wall coverage. But when this statement came out, everybody just didn't really know what to do with it. Now, I do think that given a year, teams are going to be able to, teams that want to be in on the LeBron business a year from now at least have a year to prepare to be in on the LeBron James business, because maybe the reason LeBron's ultimately not traded is because there's nowhere for him to go, right? The obvious one is Cleveland. Well, Cleveland can't do it. They're over the second apron. There's no way for them to do it. I got a bunch of fake trades I want to throw at you later just for the hell of it. But teams now can at least take this year. If they want to be in on the LeBron business, they have a year now to prepare for the LeBron, to try to acquire LeBron in a way that they just didn't have this summer,
or even until the deadline, right? Like if it comes down to it, and some team maybe is closer than they thought. Like, how often can you say, yeah, we can add a LeBron James, and that's, that the funny thing here too, Wes, is that, like, I actually think there's a world where the Lakers open up hot. The league tends to backload the Lakers schedule so that when more people are paying attention, the Lakers play in a lot of these nationally televised games against the best teams in the league, as everybody is either vying for playoff positioning or trying to get into the playoffs. And so what that sometimes means is a really light early load. And you also have DeAndre Ayton, who's going to be on his best behavior as well. Like, there's a world where the Lakers start hot and LeBron and Luka kind of look around and go, how about this? How close could we get? And that might happen to any number of teams. And in the Lakers case, they could say, well, how much more can we actually supplement LeBron and Luka and this core, and see how close we can get to the OKCs, the Denvers, the Houstons. I think that's the top tier in the West. I think the Lakers are probably another tier and a half down, I would say, where I think Minnesota is probably a tier above the Lakers. The Lakers are like half a tier between Minnesota and the next groups. I think they're better than Golden State, the Clippers, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, the funny thing is, you had mentioned off the top that the conversation you had more often with everybody was about LeBron. I actually had a very different experience in that most people that I talked to, it would start with LeBron, and then it would eventually be like, we're heading towards the pre-agencies of Luka, of Giannis, of Jokic. And I don't want to go so far as to say that the league has kind of moved on from LeBron, but I thought there was kind of a kind of perfect encapsulation of that relationship between LeBron and the league, where it's like, look, if we acquire him, he's going to demand, that we win a championship in the next couple of years. We don't know how long he's going to be with us. We're going to have to give up, at the very least financially, some valuable, trade pieces to get him, maybe even rotation players to get him. Are we going to completely reset our timelines for him? And then, from that conversation, it just really quickly segued to, yeah, but what are the Lakers doing to get ready for Giannis? And what's Denver doing to get ready for potentially Luka? And what's the Clippers doing? Because we know that they're going to be in on all of these guys. So I actually experienced a lot more of the speculation about the futures of the league's new kind of big three.
Yeah, the Giannis thing came up a lot, and so did the Luka stuff. A lot of Luka topics. Luka looking slimmer. By the way, are you buying slimmer Luka? Is this?
I think I saw an ab. I think he might have like one visible ab, which is, I think, it's one ab more than he had last year. So I'll take it.
The part that I can't figure out and that I've had a hard time squaring, and I've had this conversation with people in Vegas too, with the LeBron statement, the Rich Paul statement, however we want to phrase it, is kind of calling out the Lakers and saying that they're not, essentially paraphrasing here, but not ready to win now, that they're building for the future. And I could never really square that in my mind because Luka has been in the finals within the last 2 years. He's young, but it doesn't mean that he's not ready to win right now. Now, was this a direct response to them kind of going DeAndre Ayton instead of Brook Lopez? I don't know. I don't know how much say they even had in all of that. And in the first place, maybe you have more intel on that than I do. But, Dorian Finney-Smith walks away. They signed Jake LaRavia. But, what are we really talking about here? Look, LeBron is not going to force his way out of an organization for Dorian Finney-Smith. That's just not going to happen. So,
that's a funny way to put it. Yeah.
I think that this Lakers team, I agree with you. I think that you have a very clear top tier in the West, and then the Lakers are probably behind that. And that's pretty good. And I think if you have LeBron and you have Luka Doncic and you have a functional center, which DeAndre Ayton, for all of his warts, is a functional NBA center.
Yep.
You got some shooting around him. You still have Austin Reeves there. I kind of think this Lakers team is pretty good.
I think they'll be fine. I think they'll, and more importantly, I think the way that this season is going to play out is they're looking right now, I'm told, to try to make a consolidation trade, open up roster spots, open up a little bit more financial flexibility, open up that full biannual exception that they don't have full access to right now. And if they can't do that, then they're going to waive Shake Milton, and then they might waive Jordan Goodwin. Just to again get themselves access to that full, or as close to the full biannual exception as they can. And now if all they do is waive Shake Milton and maybe waive Jordan Goodwin, replace those guys for like a Marcus Smart, or if he gets bought out, obviously. I have Lakers fans constantly asking me about Bradley Beal. I think he's looking to start with the Clippers if he gets bought out. But yeah, I think if you enter the season with a pretty good roster around and a sensible one, like the thing with the way that they entered the playoffs last year was it just didn't make any sense. Jackson Hayes being your starting center is just it falls so far below a necessary component in team building that you can't honestly analyze what that team was. Now you swap out Jackson Hayes as the starter with DeAndre Ayton as the starter. And by the way, a contract year DeAndre Ayton, who is looking to convince the rest of the league that he should still continue making more than exception money moving forward. And yeah, I do see a path to where at least early they kind of impress some teams, and then even beyond that, if they hold on to Maxi Kleber's expiring contract, Gabe Vincent's expiring contract, they have that 2031 or 32 first round pick that they could move. Rui Hachimura's contract is expiring, and he's a useful NBA player, so that's a tool that they could use to improve this season. I think there's a lot of doom and gloom because the Lakers haven't made, a big splash or anything like that. But look, they addressed the center spot. They kind of sort of replaced Dorian as he walked out the door in order for them to replace that center spot or get a center. And I think the team makes a little bit of sense. Is it enough to where like LeBron, if it, would it hit the line of where LeBron would be like excited to play with this team? Obviously not, but when we talk about like, because I laughed at the line of the future, that it's hard for the Lakers to build for the future while they have, LeBron on it, and how their two timelines don't necessarily meet up. And it's like, Luka's not 19.
Right.
Luka's entering his prime. He's going to be pretty good. So, yeah, I think this offseason has been really interesting in the framing of all of it. And we'll see how excited LeBron is to actually get together with this team if and when that happens.
I think that a lot of the evaluation of the Lakers roster starts after you get past Luka and LeBron, and then people start looking at the rest of the roster. And I get that. But then
off of a bad playoffs too. Like the last we saw a lot of these guys, it was ugly. They got their butts kicked by Minnesota.
And I thought JJ Redick got outcoached in that series.
Totally.
But Redick is going to learn from that. He's going into his second year as a head coach. And I bring up the roster also because I like to remind people, okay, yeah, I know. They still have Luka freaking Doncic. And Lakers fans, like you said, we didn't make the big move. You just got Luka. It just happened. That was a few months ago. Relax. If you don't have another big splashy move for the next 10 years, it would be okay based on how splashy the Luka, you have so many waves still rippling off the Luka Doncic trade that you could deal with no splashes for a little while here. If Luka is the best player in the world, which is in the wheelhouse, is 100% in the wheelhouse, I don't care about Dorian Finney-Smith versus Jake LaRavia. I don't care how many threes Dalton Connect makes. If Luka Doncic is the best player in the world, and you have LeBron James as the second best player on this team, that is a damn good basketball team. And that's why all the analysis, it starts after LeBron and Luka. So much of the conversation is the rest of the roster. I'm like, to me, the analysis starts and ends with how good Luka Doncic is going to be for the Lakers. And this is a team that's built around Luka. I think that's fair to say. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much different it is versus the pre-Luka team other than Anthony Davis isn't around anymore. But it still is functionally a team could be built around LeBron. Like, we act like LeBron and Luka are completely different players. When they have the ball in their hands, they operate in a very similar way. They're going to slow the game down. They're going to operate high pick and roll, and they're going to be the queen of the chessboard. So regardless of who's on the court, I think it's going to work. You're just basically giving LeBron, instead of a spacing threat, and Anthony Davis was never even really that over the last few years, you're giving him more of a lob threat in DeAndre Ayton, and he's worked with those kinds of players before, like JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard early in his Lakers tenure. So
Ayton's also a fantastic just kind of traffic finisher.
Yep.
He's really good I wish he would draw more free throws. I think he averaged 1.5 free throws last year. With Portland, nobody cared on that team, but until later in the season. But Ayton's ability to punish switches is something that I think really unlocks what LeBron and Luka are looking to do, because what we saw from Minnesota and what we saw from teams that defended the Lakers really well was that they would just switch onto LeBron and Luka, and those guys weren't turning the corner. And on top of it, the player that was, switched onto Jackson Hayes, well, what are you going to do? Post up Jackson Hayes? That's not going to happen. So, yeah, I actually think that Ayton will kind of unlock a different thing that those guys can offer. But I think even more importantly than DeAndre Ayton here, last year it was all your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn. With LeBron and Luka, they never ran a thing together. Let alone with Austin Reeves, and the LeBron Austin Reeves PNR combo was actually pretty productive for the Lakers, especially in clutch moments before the Luka trade, and that went away too. So I actually thought, I've got to be careful with how I say this. I actually thought that the offense got worse when they traded for Luka, because it was everybody trying to build this plane mid-flight, and I just don't think that they ever figured that out. It was a crash landing against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And if they can get at more of the meat, and they left a ton of it on that bone offensively, and LeBron and Luka, which, by the way, earlier in the offseason, before all of this noise and before that statement from Clutch, but earlier in the offseason, I was hearing how LeBron and Luka had been talking about what they could do to improve how they operate together on the court. And they weren't working out together yet because I don't think either of them were really working out and doing basketball activities at that point. But I think in fairly short order, especially after Eurobasket, LeBron and Luka are going to get together, and Austin will be a part of those conversations too. He'll be there for them. And I think if the Lakers can unlock more offensively than they got from those guys next year, that's going to be significantly more important than whether they pick up DeAnthony Melton like that. That's it. No
Right.
offense to DeAnthony Melton, but there was just so much left on that bone that they need to get at this season.
So let's talk then about, you mentioned a consolidation trade earlier. I know you've talked a lot about potentially Andrew Wiggins. Is that the name that keeps coming up when you're talking, or even just thinking about names that could be out there? Are there other spots that you're looking at?
I think the Wiggins thing is pretty much dead. That was one of
Yeah.
the things that I heard as I was leaving Vegas was like, yeah, the problem that I kept hearing was that Miami wanted a pick, as well as I know that Jovan got aggregated a ton with the Dalton, Rui, and pick conversation. I don't think the Lakers would be all that upset if they had to include Dalton in any trade. I don't know if you've watched him in Summer League. I don't think he would be all that upset as if he was included in any trade. The Rui thing would sting because he was one of the few players who played with any kind of force against Minnesota, and he is super popular within the hallways of the Lakers facilities, especially up at the top. So that one, I think that might have been kind of a sticking point. But the biggest thing was the Lakers weren't interested in trading a first for Andrew Wiggins, who has a player option of $30 million on the books for next year, which he may or may not pick up. I would probably predict he'll pick it up because that's a lot of money. But even if he doesn't, then you have another Dorian Finney-Smith situation, which you're trying to sort out while you're trying to position yourself for Jokic and for Giannis and so forth. So yeah, the Wiggins thing, it was an earlier in the offseason kind of conversation. I don't believe it advanced much further than, well, let's talk about like general framework. But, I saw that Mark Stein reported that no agents were informed about any kind of offer, which is a pretty important step in those things. So, but I think Portland is a team to keep an eye on. Rob Pelinka.
Well, I want to stop you on the Wiggins thing. I was
Go ahead. Sorry.
Since I got the kind of the Miami angle on this when I was in Vegas. It was a lot of what you're saying too. I don't think that the conversations ever went in a meaningful way. I think the Heat basically said, if you want Wiggins, it's going to cost you a first round pick, and we can negotiate from there. But we're going to need a first. Yeah. Miami wants a first, like nobody else's business. They kind of have an understanding. If we can get one more first round pick in our pocket here, then we might be able to get involved in some of the names that we were talking about earlier, like a Giannis or something like that. So they've been trying to get that extra first round pick in a lot of different kinds of ways, and that would have been one way. It was to just grab one from the Lakers. There also, I think, was this feeling or maybe this sentiment out there for some reason that the Heat were trying to trade Wiggins. And that was never really the case. I think they were open, and I think still are open to trading Andrew Wiggins. He's not untouchable. I think that would be fair, but he's not on the trade block. And I think to your point, when Lakers fans were kind of saying, well, we'll give him Connect instead of the first round pick, and that's kind of like a first round pick. No, it's not. And also, nobody, like, that doesn't do anything. The Heat are like, yeah, we'll take Connect if you want to throw him in there, but it's not Connect or a first round pick. It's a first round pick and maybe also Connect, like if that's where negotiations kind of go. But they like Wiggins. I think they want to see what this roster looks like with Wiggins. I think the addition of Norm Powell makes them even more comfortable in having Andrew Wiggins on the roster, because now he's a fourth option as opposed to a third or a second or third option. So
and defensively, like if your backcourt is Norm Powell and Tyler Hero, you need Wiggins perimeter defense.
Right.
That was my immediate takeaway.
As soon as more on the defensive end, as opposed to having him run some stuff on the ball for you like they did at the end of last season.
Yeah. I that was my immediate takeaway once that trade happened. Well, my first takeaway was, what the hell you guys got? They got Norm Powell for some change that Pat Riley had in the back of his car. And then my second takeaway was, oh, well, they need Wiggins.
Yeah.
And
I think they feel the same way.
So I would, and Spoelstra came out and talked about him as well. And now, it is lying season. So, you can never put too much weight into some of those kinds of statements, but it sounded genuine and it makes a lot of sense basketball wise. In that wide open East, you have the firepower between Norm and Hero, and Bam is still a fantastic defensive big who can, still do some stuff offensively. I think it's a pretty good team. I would put them as like a top. I don't know. I haven't really thought much about the East because it's so depressing, but I would put them as like a top 5-ish team, maybe 4 team in the East.
Yeah.
And at that in that range, you're in striking distance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and by the way, we know that's how Pat Riley operates, right?
Correct.
Is he's going to, keep Miami in within striking distance, and there's going to be some Miami voodoo in the postseason, and wouldn't you know it, they're in the second or third round of the playoffs. So, but yeah, the Wiggins thing, it was one of those names that was floated out early, and obviously Jeannie and Pat Riley go way back, so there was some conversations between the two organizations about it. I just don't think they ever got particularly close on the framework of a deal.
You were talking to me about Portland.
Yeah, so Portland is interesting. Of all of the GMs, all of the basketball heads out there in the NBA, I would say Joe Cronin and Rob Pelinka talk about as often as any pair. They love to negotiate against each other. They negotiate in very similar ways in that they both set their price and then they don't negotiate. But it does involve a lot of checking back in and saying, hey, does this change your thing? Or, all right, Beal finally agreed to a buyout and he's going to sign with the Clippers. So, but yeah, the thing with Cronin and Rob
that just happened. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
okay.
it just happened. Sean's
okay.
just
let's talk about it, but we'll put a pin in it for now. Finish your Portland thought.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they have a couple of veterans that I think the Lakers like. Robert Williams, who I think the Lakers know they need a better backup than Jackson Hayes. And when he's healthy, Williams is a much better player than Jackson Hayes. So I think they like him quite a bit. And they also like Tybal, who, is kind of Kirkland brand Wiggins at this stage of his career. Doesn't have the juice off the dribble that Wiggins does, but has improved as a shooter, is still a kind of frisky defender. So those are two guys that I think, Portland thinks that they can be good this year. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to learn very, very quickly that they won't. And as soon as they aren't very good, I think at that point, the Lakers and Portland will have more serious conversations about those two guys.
That makes a ton of sense. Let's talk a little bit more about this Bradley Beal thing since the news just broke. So Shams reporting Beal agreed to a buyout with the Suns. He's going to sign with the Clippers on a 2-year, $11 million deal with a player option. How does this guy keep getting player options and no trade clauses? Whatever. I think it's a good move for the Clippers. I think it makes a ton of sense. They traded Norm Powell. It opened up the spot there for Beal. I don't think the Clippers wanted to extend Powell because they want to maintain that cap flexibility for the summer of 2027, which is obviously the summer that they've earmarked as the summer of Clippers. I guess that's what they're looking at it as. Kawhi will be off of his deal. James Harden will be off of his deal. And this deal from Beal aligns up with that. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah, Lakers fans were really, really hoping for Beal, but part of the reason he was leaving Phoenix, especially the way that he left, was because he wasn't starting. And I think he wanted to get back to being a starter in the NBA, and he'll do that there with the Clippers. So the question becomes, is Beal and Collins better in aggregate than Norm? And I would probably say it's close, but I would probably lean Collins was fantastic. He was almost too good for Utah, right? Mm-hmm. Like they were finding
I saw a stat somewhere that they won 70% of the games John Collins played.
Yeah, and they were just like, get out of here.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good offseason again for the Clippers.
And if you're getting Beal for like if you're getting Beal for $5 or $6 million a year, that's very different than $53 million a year with a no trade clause. I mean, this is a guy who, before Phoenix tried to make him as miserable as they possibly could, was averaging almost 19 points per game on 40% shooting almost from 3-point range. I mean, that's a useful player playing alongside guys like Harden and Kawhi who can set him up.
Yeah, and I honestly think that situations really matter a lot more than we give them credit for.
I agree.
And that Phoenix team was a great 2K team. Like that was
Mhm.
if you could turn off team chemistry, that team would have been really good. But here with the Clippers, he now, has heard everything that everybody, especially in Phoenix, has had to say about him. And he now gets to, be set up by James Harden and operate off of the ball when Kawhi is in isolation. That Clippers team, I mean, it's the same thing we say every year. If they stay healthy, if this, if that, then they could be really good. Maybe this is finally the year that they actually do. But yeah, there's a reason that I would love to know. I saw that Stein floated that theory that he was waiting for that balloon payment,
Mhm.
of $14 million to come in before he gave up the $14 million. I feel like at this point he's made up the GDP of a small country, so I don't understand why it would matter. But yeah, I think it's a great pickup for the Clippers, and the Pacific Division just gets that much, tougher.
I want to spend a little bit of time on summer league. Bronny James, Dalton Connect. We could talk about maybe other Lakers players who have stood out to you, but we'll start with Bronny. He's been good, right? We don't have to talk about him because he's
Yeah.
LeBron's kid. He's been one of their better players in summer league. And you look at this depth chart that we've talked about a couple of times here. Obviously you've got Luka, you've got Austin Reeves, you've got Gabe Vincent. After that, I think there's minutes. I think there's minutes available. And if Bronny James is doing what he's been doing in summer league, which is defend well, play make pretty good, and if the shot is better than what it has been, which it has been so far for the most part in Vegas, there are minutes out there for him to gobble up. I don't know that he's going to get it, but I think he. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he has a chance at a rotation spot here, if depending on how the rest of this goes in training camp?
I don't know about rotation spot, but I think he'll be an innings eater, from time to time. They still have it just kind of depends on what happens with Gabe Vincent and how healthy and
Mhm.
available he remains. Because Gabe is still better than Bronny right now. So and Gabe's ability as a shooter, Bronny's shot, needs to come a little bit further. But
Mhm.
I think I honestly, it was night and day how confident he was out there
Yes.
this time around, compared to last year, where I kind of thought that he was very protected at USC, didn't talk to media. Yeah, he would, you would get bigger crowds when USC was playing places because of Bronny James, but it was nothing compared to the hype that was surrounding him going into Vegas, where his face is plastered on the outside of the building. And I think that kind of, took him aback a little bit. This time, he was very much the initiator in terms of taking charge. The Lakers looked significantly worse whenever he wasn't on the court this year, which you wouldn't have said last year.
Mhm.
And the part of it that I was really excited about. Now they played him in shorter stretches. They played him in these short bursts, and they really kept a close eye on his minutes. But the thing that I thought he needed to really improve on beyond the shooting was his motor. And I thought that he was, in those short bursts this year, a lot more active defensively. He had that stretch where he like specifically guarded Cooper Flag at the beginning of possessions and stuff. That's
Mhm.
the kind of stuff that, it's the kind of thing that I could see longtime league people rolling their eyes at. But I would also say that without that confidence, without that just, leadership that he showed out there on that team, I wasn't sure where Bronny would stand in the sport here moving forward. But I can definitely see a very clear path for him to become, if not this year, definitely next year, a rotation level NBA player.
You can tell that he is the son of one of the smartest basketball players to ever play the game. Like he knows how to play ball. He knows where to
Yeah.
be. He
His
knows the
passing
right
this year was
reads.
really good.
Yep. He knows all that stuff. And the confidence is what came along with it. Though I said it to somebody before. It was like last summer he was a freshman going into high school. He didn't know where the portables were. He just didn't know where to go. He didn't
Yeah.
know where his
Yeah.
class was. And this summer he came in like a senior, where he's like, I know exactly who the teachers are. I know where all the rooms are. I know what I need to do, and I know how to get out of here. So I've been very impressed. Tell me a little bit more about Dalton Connect. What's going on with him?
I kind of liken it to last quick point on Bronny,
Yeah, go ahead.
because it keeps me in a better mood. But Bronny has this thing, and I think he's a lot stronger now than he was this time last year.
Mm-hmm.
But he has this thing, and LeBron has it too, where he throws a pass and the ball just explodes out of his hands. And he threw a couple skip passes over the course of this summer league that, look, LeBron has the advantage of being 6'8", 6'9", throwing that skip pass, and so much bigger, so much longer. So the ball, you can hear it whiz when it's thrown. Bronny, I don't know if he throws it in quite that sense, but there were certainly times where the ball left his hands. I was like,
Mm.
oh, that's new. That's a new, and that's really important.
Yeah.
Given the priority that timing and spacing has had on modern offenses. But yeah, with Dalton, I always go back to Lamar Odom's response to being traded back in the day, by the Lakers, and how he said he felt betrayed, he felt this way, he felt that way, and his career never got back off the mat, basically. And now, obviously, Dalton didn't have the same history that LO had with the Lakers, and he was obviously a lot early in his career than Odom was. But remember, the Lakers traded for him, or didn't trade for him, but they drafted him. This is the only team he's ever known. When they drafted him, Rob Pelinka said that JJ Redick spontaneously combusted into all kinds of strategic creativity to try to get Dalton any looks that he could. And I think also, JJ in particular was really excited to get kind of you could live vicariously through Dalton on this team. And I think there was a lot set up there for Dalton to be able to succeed. He starts the year really, really well. He has that one kind of almost a month-long stretch where people are like, oh my God, is this guy with the steal of the draft, all of this stuff? And then, his shot falls off of a cliff. Teams start picking on him defensively. He starts overthinking to astronomical degrees. He doesn't have the best basketball IQ anyway. So, like, the more he thinks about the game, I think the worse he actually gets mentally. And he was just a complete mess by the end of the season. And the hope was that now, having some time separated from the trade and some time separated from the playoffs where he wasn't utilized at all, that maybe there would be a reset. But I actually think that, he didn't look like he was trying. He didn't look like he was we just talked about the confidence that Bronny brought to the table. Dalton didn't look comfortable crossing over in front of everybody. Everything was a hesitation dribble, especially going to his right. So, yeah, I he couldn't get any separation from anybody who was guarding him, and I'm really nervous about what that means for him. He's an older player, he's an older sophomore, and those two second-year players should be able to step onto that court and be really, really good. And I would say he was closer to bad than good.
On one hand, on paper, it is a perfect situation for Connect, right?
Yeah.
Where you're playing off of guys like LeBron and then Luka, and now both of them who just have made a career, both of them made careers out of feeding guys open 3-pointers. And that's sort of Connect's whole game. Like, if he's not a high basketball IQ player, that's okay. Stand here, make the shot. That's your job. On the other hand, you're playing with LeBron. You're playing with Luka. This team just tried to trade you. It's the Lakers. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of media. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot that comes with it that can be just overwhelming for a young guy coming into the NBA. And so maybe a change of scenery is something that he needs, because the talent is obviously there. But I don't. Sometimes to your point earlier, and it's probably the most important one and the right one. Sometimes players just need a change of scenery, especially when they've already been technically traded once from the team and now are still with the team. But speaking of trades, I got a bunch of LeBron trades that I want to throw your way. So I don't know that any of these are going to break your brain here, but I did at least want to start with a couple of notes. So the team that's most often linked to LeBron is the Cavaliers.
Mm-hmm.
They're a second apron team. I know I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but they're a second apron team. It's basically impossible for that to happen unless the Cavs make a ton of moves to get under the second apron, which they're not going to completely deplete the team and then trade stuff to match LeBron's incoming salary. So it pretty much is impossible unless LeBron takes a buyout, which, as we've talked about and it's being reported, LeBron is not interested in taking that buyout. So we're going to take the Cavs off the table. The Mavericks, I know that there's like this Vegas, there's a sports book out there that now has Dallas as the #1 landing spot for LeBron. I'm not buying it. Frankly, I never buy it when these sports books end up doing that anyway, because it's usually just a way to drum up interest in something.
Yep.
But they don't have anything that the Lakers would want in terms of expiring contracts. Guys like Klay Thompson and PJ Washington are interesting, but I don't know that those are the guys that the Lakers want to tie up their long-term flexibility for. And you could stop me if you think I'm wrong here.
No,
but
I agree.
So I'm going to take the Mavericks off the table. And I'm also going to take the Warriors off the table. As interesting as LeBron and Steph teaming up together would be, and how that would just be an instant sports movie, I don't think that the Warriors have anything that the Lakers want. Like, Warriors fans could throw out Jimmy Butler for LeBron straight up. I have no idea why the Lakers would do that. If the Lakers don't have to trade LeBron, they're not going to do it for Jimmy Butler. So I'm taking the Warriors off the board. So I've got 2 teams left because LeBron has a no trade clause, so he's not going to get traded to Detroit or something like that.
Right.
I got 2 teams left. I've got New York and I got Miami. And the Knicks trade would be, and I worked this out in the Spotrac trade machine, so I think it works. I've got LeBron, Shake Milton, and Goodwin. No, I'm sorry, that's the wrong trade. I got LeBron. Okay, the Knicks trade. This is the Knicks trade. LeBron and the Knicks for Karl-Anthony Towns straight up. Which is
so I've gotten this one a lot.
Yeah,
people are asking about it. It works straight up. It's clean. It's all of those things. I don't think the Lakers want anything to do with that Karl-Anthony Towns contract. I don't think very many teams do. I'm not even sure the Knicks do, to be completely honest.
Right.
I mean, their whole goal right now, and the reason that there is any friction between the Lakers and LeBron James, is that the Lakers are focused on full flexibility to be able to go out and get Giannis and Jokic, and this ends that. So, there was some framework that I saw, where it was like maybe the Knicks would trade OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson, and I don't know. I'd have to look at the.
Well, that was the other one I came up with. It would have been LeBron and connect to the Knicks for Bridges, Robinson, and Hart. But I guess you could put the OG Anunoby thing in there and figure out the other math. But I got the math to work with LeBron, connect, and Bridges, Robinson, and Hart, because both of these teams are close to aprons, so you got to be careful with it. But
I think that makes more sense to me, in that Bridges makes a little less than Cat does, and is somebody who fits well with whoever they would go out and try to get. So if there was, and again, all of this is taking for granted that it would take LeBron specifically going to the Lakers and saying, trade me.
Yes.
They aren't going to do that without that conversation taking place. And
Correct.
I don't
These
think
are all completely hypothetical trades that we do not think are going to happen, but they're fun to talk about.
But I would say the second Knicks one here with Bridges instead of Cat makes a lot more sense for now. Does New York do that one?
Right.
Do they trade somebody that they gave up all the picks in the world for somebody who's going to be in Madison Square Garden for a season, maybe 2,
right?
At best 3.
Right. Exactly. And that's why I think they would prefer, if they had a choice, they would prefer to do the Cat trade, because I do think there'd be a part of them that would say, well, we can kind of get out of the Cat business. And just bring LeBron in as essentially an expiring, and maybe we extend him off of this and it's just a 2-year deal. But either way, we're not dealing with the long-term implications of having to pay Karl-Anthony Towns. And we've got Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, and LeBron. And we've got Mitchell Robinson at the 5. Maybe we go out and get another backup center for some bodies. We're not going to miss Josh Hart all that much, especially or no, Josh Hart's not part of that trade. Josh Hart's still around in this trade. So they won't miss Josh Hart because he'll still be there. So yeah, that one's interesting. The other one that I had here was LeBron going back to Miami. It would be LeBron, Shake Milton, and Goodwin for Wiggins, Terry Rozier. I'm throwing Jaime Jaquez Jr. in there because it feels like the Lakers would have to have something that they'd get excited about in some way, shape, or form. And then like whatever draft, is it a first round pick? Is it 2 for, like, I don't know, but that's whatever it is. Wiggins has the player option. You mentioned that he's probably going to pick it up. I wouldn't be surprised if he turned it down, but turned it down with the understanding that he'll maybe take a little bit less money right away, but for long-term security. That wouldn't shock me. But around it, the same amount of money, probably $28-30 million, something like that. Terry Rozier's contract is expiring. Jaquez is a nice little young piece. And if, again, this is the Lakers having to trade LeBron. It's not great value, but you get the expirings that you want. You get a useful player in Wiggins potentially that could be around long term or not, and then LeBron goes back to Miami.
Yeah, it's funny because I've actually been on board. Like, if the reason for not trading for Wiggins is you don't want to give up a first for him, then honestly, I agree. But if the reason for not trading for Wiggins is because he gets in the way of your pursuit of Giannis and Jokic, that actually I don't necessarily agree with. Because, all right, look at how all of these trades have gone in recent years. When the franchise player finally asks out and stuff like that, one, they don't tend to go to the team that they say that they want to go to, that they leak that they want to go to. Two, when they're traded, those teams, you always get that dumb statement from the owner saying like, nope, we're not tanking, not us. How dare you even float that idea? And then like reality sets in, 6 months later and they say, okay, yeah, we should probably tank. But if you're trading Giannis and you could get a $30 million expiring in Wiggins, even if he picks up that player option, that to me seems like a more feasible path to getting those players than clearing your books and trying to strong arm whatever team into, trade us Giannis for Austin Reeves and 3 future firsts, whatever it is. So, I like the idea of bringing Wiggins in. There was some talk that maybe Miami would take a deal because they're also, I guess, positioning themselves. You would know this better than me, for the pursuit of a Giannis, of a Jokic, whoever.
Yes.
And like there was some talk that they were just trying to get Wiggins off of their books for that pursuit for a brief time. I can't quite confirm that to that extent as much as I do the Rui and a first type of talks that they and the Lakers were having.
To your point, they're not all that worried about the Wiggins money.
I don't think anybody should be.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
It's a $30 million expiring as the cap is going up for a useful player.
It's the same reason why they're not actively shopping Terry Rozier. It's like he's expiring. We don't care. If he doesn't play for us, we don't care that he's making $26 million to sit on the bench. It doesn't matter. Like,
yeah,
that's the goal isn't to clear the money now. The goal is to clear the money later, and that's already happening.
Yeah, and eventually too, like if it's Rozier's $26 million expiring contract, that's not as valuable right now, but at the deadline, when you would be actually saving teams money, that does become a lot more valuable. So, yeah, I've always thought that if it didn't take the first, I would be totally in on trading for Wiggins, and I would say Jokic Giannis plan not be damned, but this actually fits into that team building design.
And I like the idea of LeBron in Miami. I do think that they would. I think that they would, because you're right. They're also one of these teams that are maintaining cap room, and everybody's still waiting to see what's going to go on with Giannis and all these things. But the other thing that we also know about Pat Riley, it was interesting that locally they had put the word out, hey, after they did not trade for Kevin Durant, they said we're going to lean into a youth movement. We're really looking at that, and then they get Norm Powell, who's 31, 32 years old. Yeah. And a lot of Heat fans were like, wait, what happened to the youth movement? And I was like, don't worry. You're overthinking it. It cost Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love to get Norm Powell. The hell with your movements. Yeah. That's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer of a deal. You just stole a very good basketball player for next to nothing. And if they could somehow get LeBron for that kind of value, I think it would be very similar in that they would be like, yeah, you know what? The hell with the youth movement. We can go get LeBron freaking James. We're going to go ahead and do that. Who does make sense with the roster. So
I just think Pat Riley is like allergic to youth movements. That's not how he's ever operated before.
Correct.
So it's I mean that was one of the things that I was hearing initially in the Wiggins conversation was how Nick Arison is kind of more pushing towards a modern team build and they're doing all of that stuff. And Riley is more of no, we can just continue to try to compete now. And that apparent friction was kind of leading to some of the offers that were going out for stars and all that. Like I heard some of that. Again, you would know that better than me. And I actually side with Riley to a certain extent right now, because you do still have Tyler Hero, who's a good basketball player. You do still have Bam Adebayo, who's a good basketball player. Wiggins, in the role that he's going to be slotted into next year, I think is going to be quite a bit better than the Wiggins that Miami had last year. And again, the East is garbage. So
it's
go
such
out
an
and try to win
important
a couple playoff rounds and see what happens.
It's a great point. And I also like to remind people, because Heat fans will say, well, they didn't trade for Kevin Durant, so why would they trade for LeBron? They made the decision. Well, LeBron's better. And they also made the decision not to trade for Durant before Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
And before the Boston Celtics traded away half their roster and let Al Horford walk and all these things. The East is even more wide open now than it was when Durant got traded to Houston. And I always wondered, had Phoenix just waited a couple more days, and Halliburton still tore his Achilles, would Miami have just said, yeah, you know what? Maybe we do have a window here where we didn't think we had that window before. The top two teams in the East are just not going to be the top two teams in the East next year. They're taking gap years. So, and I don't think anybody is good. No disrespect to the Cavs and the Knicks. Nobody in the East is afraid of those teams. So now, with things changing a little bit more over the last month, presented with a similar opportunity, I do wonder what the Heat would do about it. And we know, and by the way, we know that they were willing to trade at least one of those pieces, a young piece, for Kevin Durant. They just weren't willing to trade all of it. So as long as it doesn't cost all of it for somebody like LeBron, I think they'd still be interested in potentially having that conversation. But all of that was hypothetical, and that's important to note. Last thing here, Anthony. This is a new segment that we're going to call the Toy Department. We're just going to have a little bit of fun, play a fun game, a fun segment with our guest here on RealGM Radio. We're going to build our respective starting fives from the LeBron era Lakers. We each get a LeBron James on our team. We get a LeBron. You have a LeBron and I have a LeBron. And we're going to draft the other four starters based on the pool of any teammate he has had during his time with the Lakers. You're the guest. You get the first pick.
Well, AD.
That's your number one pick. Okay.
Is my first overall pick. And we're going to go like I pick, you take two, and then I take two, or
No. We're not going to snake it. That's crazy. There's only two people here. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I'll take AD first.
All right, I'll take Luka.
All right. Not a bad pick. My next pick, I'll go Caruso.
That's a good pick. So you've got LeBron, Davis, and Caruso.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Luka. I've got Luka already. I'm going to go...
Center spot gets ugly really quickly.
It does, right? But I feel like I can wait on center since you already took the center. I'm trying to be strategic here. I'm going to go Reeves. I'm just going to go BPA here.
Okay. All right.
I'm just building
the current Lakers. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. My next pick is Russell. No, I'm kidding. I'll go with I mean, if I'm already on the track to it, I'll take KCP next.
That's a good pick. I'm
building the 2019, 2020 league.
That's right. All right, give me Finney Smith.
Ooh, that's a good one. Finney would have been a good one for my version.
KCP was better. KCP was better.
Then I'll probably go. It's like between Rui and Kuz. Unless I can think of anybody else. No, I'll stick with the trend. I'll take Kuz. I'll take Kuz as my small forward or whatever there.
All right, so I need a center. Geez. Do I just play small?
If you specify that it is only pre-COVID Marc Gasol, I think you can get away with it. But that's really slow. Like that's a really slow team.
Gasol was a tough year.
He was so good before he got sick. Like I that's going to be one of those things that gets lost to time. But Gasol, before he got sick, he had this play, and I'll never forget it. Gasol was at the high post, and he had gotten the pass there, and LeBron hadn't quite gotten the seal yet, but he very easily could have gotten the seal. And he threw this pass that was actually ahead of LeBron. And LeBron kind of looked at Gasol. He was like, "Oh, that's new.
Right.
I have never been behind a guy on a play before." And yeah, the basketball that those guys were playing before Gasol got sick, and then they eventually promised Drummond the starting gig, and yeah, the rest of that season went the way that it did. But
I
Gasol
was a
before
big fan
COVID
of
was
the
good.
Gasol acquisition when they made it after the Bubbles final, but the whole year of Gasol was rough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go. Just give me McGee. Give me
Okay.
JaVale. He's a lob
Lob
threat
threat.
for Luka and LeBron. I think it works. He'll play some minutes there, and then we're gonna sub out and we're gonna go small with DFS at the 5 probably for for our closing lineup. You want to go one more for a 6-man?
6-man. Well, there I'll go Rui then.
There you
Then
go.
I'll
That's
take
a good
Rui.
pick. All right, give me Malik Monk.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Yeah,
I don't know why Sacramento is like so adamant that they have to get rid of Malik Monk. It
I don't
doesn't
know
make
why. You
any
could have
sense.
just stopped the sentence. I don't know why Sacramento. You could have just stopped right there.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I've driven through it. Honestly, it extends to the entire. No, I'm kidding. But
Anthony Irwin, the Lakers Lounge, the Lakers insider over at Clutch Points, a favorite of ours here at RealGM Radio. Thanks so much for jumping on, man.
anytime, man. Thanks for having me.